We got some truly crazy reveals and a flashback that includes not only Kuma, Bonnie, Vegapunk, and Saturn, but Kizaru, Dragon, Ace, Mihawk, the other warlords, even Luffy, and more. Oda saved something truly special for chapter 1100 as we expected, so make sure to stay tuned for this one. Chill the parking within and smash that like button if you enjoy One Piece reviews like this one and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the Nakama by subscribing and hitting that notification bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss future One Piece reviews and updates. By hitting that virtual button, you are helping me achieve my dream of reaching 2 million subscribers here on YouTube. And now, without further ado, let's jump into this crazy chapter that, among other things, really shows how far key characters like Luffy and Kobe have come since the story began. This chapter is called Thank You, Bonnie. So we're still on the crazy backstory and life of poor Kuma and Bonnie. Although they aren't the most popular characters in the fan base, Oda has definitely delivered on their backstories. Kuma's must be one of the darkest we've seen, if not the darkest. But it ain't even over yet, as we're about to get into. P.S. Let me know if you can think of a darker One Piece backstory in the comments. So this chapter starts where the last one ended, where if you'll remember, Kuma and Bonnie were on Egghead with Vegapunk and Sentomaru. Vegapunk had just told Kuma that he can save Bonnie, and in turn, he'll just need to use Kuma's Buccaneer blood as the foundation for his pacifista clones. These clones, as Vegapunk intended, were supposed to be a force for good, for fighting evil pirates and being shields for the innocent. Of course, we know things don't quite work out like that, and it's because Saturn, the elder on Egghead right now, who Bonnie blames for all of this, was listening to the conversation with a spy snail. He has his own ideas for using Kuma, as we'll get into soon. Here we see that Kizaru visits Vegapunk's laboratory. Some Marines like Drake were following him. That's a cool touch as well. Drake is definitely one of the cooler Marines. It's also made clear that Vegapunk didn't know about the spy snails or spy Dendenmushi inside the lab because he had just moved into this building after the accident in Punk Hazard. So yes, as we know by now, and even as Dragon knew, Vegapunk is a good guy. The government just loves using him for their evil ends. Kizaru brings Saturn's Dendenmushi because he wants to talk with Vegapunk. Saturn also said he is aware of Vegapunk's illegal negotiations with a pirate, meaning Kuma. However, since Kuma will make an excellent host for the clone army, Saturn decides to allow the deal. Of course, he adds 3 conditions that will not turn out so well, as we know. 1, Kuma must be a warlord, replacing an unnamed warlord who was defeated by Ace a few days ago. On a side note, that's a cool detail. I always enjoy learning more about Ace, and the fact that he just took down a warlord is awesome. Would love to see that fight. Ace also fought Warlord Jinbei for 5 days until they both collapsed from exhaustion, and Warlord Blackbeard, although we know he lost that one. Either way, he seemed to love battling warlords. Number 2, Kuma must become a human weapon, undergoing a cyborg surgery. Number 3, Kuma's mind must be erased when his surgery ends. All of these conditions are what leads to the present, where so far, instead of a happy ending, a seemingly mindless Kuma is being abused by celestial dragons. Hopefully, they somehow find a way to return his memories. After all, we saw that Bonnie has already had access to them through one of Kuma's paw bubbles. But Vegapunk, being the good guy that he is furious with these conditions. As he says, wiping a cyborg's brain is the same as killing the man. While Saturn, for his part, gives him a reality check, saying he's in no position to argue with the elder and calls him a marine scientist in a derogatory way. Still, for Kuma's part, he actually cries tears of joy because he will finally be able to save Bonnie. He is such a good guy, and Oda shows that again. I'm just liking him more and more with every chapter at this point. Hashtag justice for Kuma. It makes sense that he'd react this way too, because as he said last chapter, he'd even make a deal with the devil if it meant saving Bonnie. And with Saturn's recent demonic form revealed, that didn't end up being far from the truth. So Vegapunk then explains that Bonnie's surgery will take 6 months, and after that she must rest for 1 year before she can go outside. On the other hand, Kuma's surgery will take 2 years. Saturn says Bonnie will be their hostage. If Bonnie is cured, there's a risk that Kuma may run away with her. So after her 6-month treatment, Bonnie must be in world government custody for 1 year. The government promises to release her after Vegapunk erases Kuma's mind, but man, I would never believe these guys at this point. They're just evil. What's more, to prevent them from running away together, Kuma won't be allowed to meet Bonnie ever again after her 6-month treatment. Tragic stuff, but nothing new for Kuma, and in fact, since she'll be cured, for Kuma, even this tragic condition doesn't take away from his happiness. So that pretty much means even if Bonnie doesn't know it, these 6 months will be their last 6 months together. Kuma will have to make the most of them. Kuma of course agrees to Saturn's conditions, but in exchange asks for them to send Bonnie to Sorbet Kingdom after the 6-month treatment to prevent her from knowing the truth about this deal. Saturn agrees, since as long as she is under the world government's eyes, anywhere is the same for them. Gotta say, this backstory is doing a great job of fleshing out all of the significance of all of the non-Straw Hat characters on Egghead right now. Even Saturn as the big evil bad guy of this arc, I can't wait to see him defeated after all of this evil stuff he did. His defeat will be so cathartic for everyone, especially for Bonnie, and I can't wait to see it. And since Oda is spending so much time explaining all of this stuff about how evil Saturn is and all the terrible things he did, it makes me strongly believe that Saturn will face defeat sooner rather than later. After the deal between Kuma and Saturn, we see a montage of Kuma, Bonnie, Vegapunk, and Sentomaru spending time together and growing closer to one another during these 6 months. Knowing all of this, it's completely understandable why Vegapunk was so protective over Bonnie in recent chapters. And even Kizaru is shown to be very close to them too. We see him joining a pizza party and even dancing with them. As I've been pointing out this arc, Kizaru has repeatedly been saying that he doesn't want to fight Sentomaru or Bonnie, but only does so when they get in the way of his mission. This backstory better explains why he really doesn't want to fight them. And this is coming to a boiling point this arc. I'm telling you guys, we're gonna get some big stuff from Kizaru. Whether it's him finally not putting the mission first for once, or whether it's us finally figuring out why he is so obsessed with following orders and missions, even if it means attacking his friends. There's a reason Oda called his form of justice unclear justice. He's an enigma right now, and I think the mystery will be revealed sooner than later. We also see scenes of Bonnie and Kuma's surgeries too, like for instance we see Vegapunk changing Kuma's shoulders. Finally, after 6 months, Bonnie's surgeries are over and she's brought to the Sorbet Kingdom as agreed. Connie and the others welcome her back. Notably, Connie has a hat that looks the same as the one Bonnie wore to Sabaody. It's agreed that Bonnie will live in the church for another year under the medical team's care, but the medical team is made up of government agents and their leader is CP8 Agent Alpha. We're told she's a sexy nurse, so we have that to look forward to. On a much more serious note though, Kuma says goodbye to Bonnie and his last words are "Thank you for being born, Bonnie," end quote. And oh god, that is so beautiful and heartwarming and painful at the same time, because we know those are his last words to her. But for Bonnie, she just laughs since she doesn't know she'll never see Kuma again, at least not the real Kuma, with his memories intact. I gotta hand it to Oda, he really knows how to hit us in the feels. Then Kuma heads out to sea to do his duty as a newly appointed warlord. We get another montage of reactions, this time to Warlord Kuma news. It makes me remember last chapter where Dragon said he was a king, tyrant, and pirate since they last met. Well, now he's been a slave, pastor, revolutionary, king, tyrant, pirate, and warlord. I don't know if anyone has had more titles than Kuma in this series. Well, yeah, let's not forget Cyborg. But what's most interesting are the reactions we see. We see the reactions of the other warlords, including Mihawk. We see Elvira, Kobe, Dragon Sabo, and Koala, too. For his part, Doflamingo says Kuma the Tyrant. Looks like we have another villain in the line. Quite the ironic line when you think about it. Miss All Sunday asks Crocodile if he's interested in the news, and he says, doesn't matter, did you get rid of the guy who saw the artificial rain ship? My favorite though is the next one, at least until we see Luffy again, as we'll get into later. We get Elvira reacting to the news about Kuma being warlord, saying supposedly he's a man close in size to that Whitebeard, Kobe. Who do you think is stronger, me or him? And then we get the old scaredy cat Kobe saying, "Of course it's you, Lady Elvira," end quote. This is one of the reasons this was a great chapter for the milestone of 1100, because by showing us what all these characters were doing before, like Kobe, who had one of the best glow-ups in the series, it shows us how far we've come and reminds us of just how long we've been with these characters. It's like a celebration of all of these characters we've come to know, their evolution, and the ones that didn't make it to the the present. I mean, if you think about it, the manga was first serialized in 1997, and so it's approaching 27 years at this point. And some people have been following along since that point, and for those people, they must really appreciate chapters like this, that with the contrast of past and present, really make us feel the time that's passed from point A to point B. And in turn, it definitely makes us more invested in the characters and what will ultimately happen to them in this story, while also allowing us to fondly remember those that are no longer alive in the story. Then after Alvida mentions Whitebeard, we fittingly jump to Whitebeard's ship. Ace and Jinbei are talking about Kuma with Whitebeard, Marco, and Teach. Yo, crazy to see Teach now after everything before he made his move and turned against the Whitebeard pirates. It makes you wish you could just step into the panel and warn all of the others of his actual evil plans. But Ace just says, Jinbei, a successor has been chosen, great. And Jinbei says, you're one to talk, Ace. I'm reading it right now, a former king. We have also a current king among us too. The pirate world sure has changed, and of course we know Doflamingo was king of Dressrosa for a time. As we saw this chapter, Ace was the one who took out the previous warlord, so it's especially fun to see his reaction here. And he's just a fan favorite character, Luffy's older brother, so it's always cool to get more moments of him, even if it has to be through flashback now. Let's jump to Boa though, and she says, this has nothing to do with me, since I will never participate in the meeting. And Gloriosa says, Snake Princess, wait. Even if so, you should still have the knowledge of it. Moria, for his part, laughs and says, a paw human? What the hell kind of power is that? End quote. Another fun moment, not only because that paw human could destroy Moria, but also because we know that both Moria and Kuma will cross paths and play a role with the Straw Hats during the Thriller Bark arc. You know, the arc where nothing happened. We see Dragon again and being a stoic of few words. He doesn't say anything, we just get a ... After this insane montage, we see Kuma is writing a letter to Bonnie where he said that he's exploring many islands they can travel to together one day in the future. Moments like this really make me hope Kuma will regain his memories at some point, otherwise Oda is just twisting the knife in the emotional wound right now. We then see a younger Luffy running away from a tiger in a forest. Like with Kobe, it again serves to show us how far we've come and specifically how far our protagonist has come. Luffy is laughing, saying it's mad now. And at the same time, Kuma's ship is also seen arriving at Fusha village, Luffy's village. He receives a Den Mushi call. The government agent says, Kuma, we have an order from the government for you. Where are you right now? And Kuma says, in the East Blue, what's the order? Let me know, what do you think this cliffhanger order will be, and is there a big reason Oda got Kuma and young Luffy so close together like this right here? But if you did enjoy learning more about strong characters like Kuma, then you won't want to miss my recent video about Shanks, where I talk about how his true power and identity have finally been revealed in the manga. Link on screen right now. Like and subscribe to help us reach our dream of 2 million subscribers here on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.